What happened when Eala left Wimbledon? The silence no one expected. She lost. She packed her bags. She flew home. And somehow, Wimbledon got quieter than it had been in years. Not because the tennis stopped, but because something invisible walked out the gates with her. Here's the question nobody in tennis wants to say out loud. How does a 21-year-old lose in the fourth round of a Grand Slam and leave behind a bigger story than half the players still alive in the draw? Stay with me, because by the end of this you're going to understand why one center court exit sent a shockwave through an entire sport, and why what happens next for this one player might matter more than who actually wins the trophy. If you want the full story, hit subscribe right now, because this is the kind of moment tennis will be talking about for years. Let's set the scene. Monday, July 6, 2026. Center court, the most famous patch of grass in sports. On one side of the net, Jasmine Paolini, the 13th seed, a former world number 4, a two-time Grand Slam finalist who knows exactly what pressure feels like. On the other side, Eala, 21 years old, world number 32, seeded 29th, a young woman from Quezon City, Philippines, who 3 days earlier had done something almost nobody predicted. She had beaten the defending Wimbledon champion, Iga Swiatek, in the third round. Let that sink in for a second. Swiatek wasn't just a name on the draw sheet. She was the reigning champion, walking back onto the court where she'd lifted the trophy the year before. And Eala beat her, not by accident, not by a fluke scoreline. She beat her in a battle that had the entire grounds on their feet. So when Eala walked out to face Paolini for a place in the quarterfinals, she wasn't just some plucky underdog anymore. She was must-watch tennis. And what followed was a genuine three-set war. 6-4, 4-6, 6-3. Paolini took the first set, Eala clawed back to level things, and then Paolini, the more experienced, more battle-tested player, closed it out in the third. It was tight. It was tense. Eala even saved 3 break points in a row at one stage of the match, ripping off 5 straight points to hold serve when it looked like the wheels might come off completely. In the end, Paolini's experience won out. She deserved it. She fought for every point. But here's the part that made this loss feel different from every other fourth-round exit in the history of this tournament. The crowd didn't just clap politely and move on. When Eala walked off center court, she got a standing ovation. She stopped. She turned back to the crowd. And with her hands, she made the shape of a heart. Normally, that's where the story ends. Player loses, tournament reloads, cameras find the next match. That's the rhythm of every Grand Slam ever played. But this time, something strange happened. The story didn't leave with the loser. It stayed. And the deeper you look into why, the more you start to realize you're not just watching a tennis match anymore. You're watching the beginning of something a lot bigger. So let's go back to the start, because to understand why Wimbledon felt different, you first have to understand what Eala was actually carrying every time she stepped onto that grass. This wasn't a manufactured story. This wasn't hype built by a marketing team. This was 13 years in the making. Eala was discovered as a child prodigy, winning junior tournaments back home in the Philippines before she was a teenager. At just 12 years old, a strong showing at the prestigious Les Petits as junior event caught the attention of the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca, Spain, one of the most respected development programs in world tennis. At 13, her family made the gut-wrenching decision that thousands of tennis parents have made before them. Send their daughter across the world, away from home, away from everything familiar, to chase a dream on a different continent. Think about that for a second. 13 years old, leaving the Philippines, leaving her grandfather who had coached her as a young child, moving into a training academy built by one of the greatest athletes to ever pick up a racket, surrounded by players from countries with decades, sometimes a century, of tennis infrastructure behind them. And the Philippines had none of that. No deep well of Grand Slam champions. No long tradition of producing WTA stars. Just one young girl, and a family willing to bet everything on her. For years, almost nobody outside hardcore tennis circles knew her name. Then came 2025, a wildcard entry into the Miami Open. And what happened next stunned the tennis world. Eala beat Grand Slam champion Jelena Ostapenko. Then she beat Madison Keys, the reigning Australian Open champion. Then she beat Iga Swiatek. She reached the semifinals of one of the biggest tournaments outside the four majors as a wild card, ranked outside the top 140 at the start of that season. That run alone would have made her a story, but it was just the beginning. By the time Wimbledon 2026 rolled around, Eala had already built a resume that made tennis insiders sit up straight. Wins over former Wimbledon champion Elena Rybakina, world number 8 Alina Svitolina, and now, on the biggest stage in the sport, the reigning champion herself. So when she walked out to play Paolini in the fourth round, she wasn't a surprise anymore. She was a genuine threat. And that's exactly what made the crowd's reaction to her loss so unusual. Now here's where it gets interesting, because this wasn't just about the results anymore. This was about what happened in the spaces between matches, the places where hype usually goes to die. Start with the practice courts. If you've ever been to a Grand Slam, you know the difference between the show courts and the practice courts. The show courts are packed because people already have tickets and they want a result. The practice courts are a completely different animal. Nobody's guaranteed drama there. You might just watch someone hit the same forehand 50 times in a row, towel off, drink some water, and walk away. And yet, at Wimbledon this year, people showed up in numbers to watch Eala practice. Not compete. Practice. That's not normal hype. That's something else entirely. Then there were the flags, scattered through the stands, along the walkways, in the hands of fans who had traveled from Manila, from London's Filipino community, from all over Europe. The flag of the Philippines kept appearing over and over in a tournament with almost no history of Filipino representation at this level. Because here's a fact that's easy to lose in the excitement. Eala's run made her the first Filipina in the Open era to reach the round of 16 at a Grand Slam, and the first Filipino player ever to be seeded at a major tournament. Not close to a record, not the best in a while, the first ever. For a country of over 115 million people, with an enormous, passionate diaspora scattered across the globe, that is not a small thing. That's a door that had simply never opened before. And suddenly, it did. And then there was the internet. This is where the story stopped being contained by the boundaries of the All England club altogether. Clips of Eala's win over Swiatek spread everywhere within hours. Filipino families in California, in Toronto, in Dubai, in Manila, people who don't normally follow tennis at all, were suddenly checking scores in the middle of the night, hosting watch parties, explaining tiebreaks to relatives who'd never sat through a match before. That's the moment a player crosses the invisible line from athlete to full-blown cultural moment. So when the loss to Paolini finally came, something unusual happened. The story didn't quietly fade the way fourth-round exits normally do. It lingered. People kept talking about the practice courts, about the flags, about that heart she made with her hands as she walked off center court, about what Wimbledon had felt like with her there, and what it suddenly felt like without her. Now, let's be very clear about something, because it's important not to overstate this. Wimbledon did not fall apart. The seats didn't empty out. The tournament didn't lose its magic. This is Wimbledon, the oldest, most prestigious tennis tournament on the planet. It has survived legends retiring, champions losing early, decades of change. One 21-year-old's fourth-round exit was never going to break it. Jasmine Paolini, who earned every bit of that win, moved on to the quarterfinals, where she was set to face Ukraine's Marta Kostyuk, the world number 13 who was enjoying a career-best season. But here's the real, more precise claim, and it's the one worth paying attention to. Eala didn't just bring a few extra fans to watch tennis. She brought an entirely different kind of audience into the story. Not the die-hard tennis fans who track every ranking shift and know every player from 10 to 40 in the world. A newer, louder, more emotionally invested crowd. People who weren't just watching a match, they were watching a possibility. Watching whether someone from a country that had never stood on this stage before could actually belong there. And when a player like that leaves the draw, the tournament doesn't lose seats. It loses a very specific emotional center. The fans who came because of her didn't stop loving tennis. But the urgency, the reason to refresh the scores every 20 minutes, the reason a random Tuesday practice session felt like an event, that went quiet. Not because Wimbledon failed, because that particular energy had nowhere left to go once she was gone. So what happens now? This is the part tennis needs to be paying attention to. In her press conference after the loss, Eala herself sounded remarkably composed for someone who had just fallen one match short of her first Grand Slam quarterfinal. She talked about the confidence this tournament had given her, about how every match had tested her ability to stay calm under pressure, about how she left London with more self-belief than she walked in with, even in defeat. That's not the reaction of someone who peaked. That's the reaction of someone who just found out what she's capable of. And the numbers back it up. Before this Wimbledon run even started, Eala had already compiled a strong record on grass that season, including a WTA 125 title and a semi-final run at another grass court event. She improved her career record against top 10 opponents to 7 wins and 4 losses. A number that tells you this wasn't a one-off miracle. This is a pattern. A player who performs when the stakes and the opponents get bigger. So here's the real question nobody's asking loudly enough. If reaching the 4th round of Wimbledon already created this much noise, the flags, the crowds at practice, the watch parties across time zones, what happens if she goes further? What happens at the US Open? A tournament where she already has history, having won her first ever Grand Slam junior-level milestone and her first main draw match there. What happens when the player who already pulls a crowd out of nowhere starts pulling trophies too? Because here's the uncomfortable truth for every other player on the WTA Tour right now. Talent gets you wins. But this specific ability to make an entire country and a global diaspora feel like they're standing on the court with you, that cannot be manufactured. It cannot be bought with a marketing campaign or built with a highlight reel. You either have that connection with an audience or you don't. And right now, all the evidence says Alex Eala has it. Wimbledon didn't need Alex Eala to survive. It's the oldest tournament in the sport. It was never going anywhere. But for 8 days in July 2026, it felt different because she was there. The grass was the same grass. The trophy was still the same trophy. But something in the air changed. A section of the crowd stood a little earlier, cheered a little louder, brought flags that had never really been part of this tournament story before. And when she walked off that court, defeated but not diminished, the sound didn't disappear all at once. It faded slowly, the way a stadium goes quiet after the lights come up. Wimbledon moved on the way it always does. But the question it left behind hasn't gone anywhere. What happens the next time Alex Eala doesn't leave early? That's not a question tennis can answer yet. But if this 4th round run was just the opening chapter, the rest of the story might be worth watching more closely than anyone expected. If you want to be there when the next chapter happens, make sure you're subscribed, because this is one storyline in tennis that is only just getting started.